Good morning, everybody. This is the webinar for today, and welcome to everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us. We'll just wait a couple of minutes just to see if anyone else wants to join. Can anyone say if they can hear me now? I've got a couple saying that people can't hear me, so I just want to make sure people can hear me. Okay, great. It looks like people can hear now. So let's just kick off for this today. And to say thank you for coming. The training today is for the movement of doing business process flows. And we will be going through a number of items on this in terms of the business process flows. My name is Shona Rochford. I work for CRM Dynamics as one of the consultants. And the topics that we will be looking at today are basically creating and editing business flows, pointing out using multiple business flows. One of the new functionalities that's come in with 365 is the ability to add workflows, so we'll just look at that. And then just a little neat thing at the end that I just want to show you how to do a view showing the stage names. And of course we will have questions and answers for whatever people may want to inquire about. So I'm just going to move the screens a little bit here to make sure that I can get, so if you can just bear with me while I just bring up the system. So what we're looking at here today is business flows in 365. Now this has changed quite a bit since before 365. So anyone who's used business flows, business process flows before 365, you're going to see a little bit of difference here. Those of you who may be new to this, obviously that will be something that's a new experience with coming on to 365. So what we're covering today is 365. That doesn't mean to say that people can't use the business flows in the old versions in the same way that they did before. 2016 and before will still have the business flows as you use them before. So what we have on the screen here is an example of a business flow in an opportunity. Now, business flows can be used in many areas of Dynamics. I'm going to show a demonstration today just on the opportunity, and I am going to make it fairly low level in the sense of not going into anything too complicated, but just to say that you can use it in a multiple of places. For example, on cases, you can do it on accounts, and it can be used to basically help users enter data in a consistent manner as they work through the record that they're going for, and to show that they're completing steps at the right time. So you can see, for example, on this one, we've got 3 basic stages, but we're looking at an initial stage, a second stage, a third stage to show qualify, propose, and closing. Now, I've purposely, as I said, made this fairly simple to help for the explanation purposes. You can have a number of stages. I've also named these stages something to hopefully make it a little bit easier to follow today. You can basically name the stages whatever fits in with what works for your processes. The other advantage of doing a business process flow is that you can use metrics on this to help you to understand how long it's taking for your business to operate on the basis of moving on from one part of a process to another. And you can see on here that it actually now shows you both in the right-hand corner here how long your process bar, and that means your opportunity, has been open for. In this case, you can see it's been active for 15 hours. You can see I set this up basically 15 hours ago. And you can also see that it's actually even telling you how long you've been at that individual stage. It will even, to start with, go down to the minute level. So if you're moving through fairly rapidly, you've got that indication that's coming through, and it makes it that you're moving through very quickly. You can see it in a minute level. Now this is looking at the business flow from the operational perspective. This is what the user is going to see when they come in. And you'll see there are a number of things that's helping the user to move through in the right direction in filling in their fields. Now, you can move through the stages very simply here by just clicking onto the next stage. You'll see a little flag that indicates that the stage that you are actually on at the time. You'll see it's also a slightly darker green, if you can see that color through the GoToMeeting setup. And you'll see here that there's a bit of a highlighted screen here that says next stage. When you click on the button for next stage, you'll see that the system should move forward for the next stage. Sometimes it takes just a little bit of time to click through there. And you'll see that we've now moved on to the second stage, and we've got our flag showing on the second stage. You'll now see that my little bar here is indicating that I could move backwards as well as forwards. And if I was to click on the previous stage, you'll see that it shows me the information from the previous stage and even lets me go back onto that previous stage and set it at active if I need to. And that means that if I make a mistake or if I realize that maybe I haven't filled in the fields as I intended to, I can go back a stage and basically start again with my process. So I'm going to go back to the stage we were at. This is the second stage, and we're assuming here that we're onto our process. Now, I set this up with some pretty basic field entries. I'm sure a lot of you are looking at this saying those fields don't make any sense at all. I'm really just, excuse me, I'm just putting these fields on really just to demonstrate some of the levels of the field information that's showing on here. So apologies if they look a little bit of a weird completion of fields here. Basically, you can see you have the same kind of ideas that you would in a form. You've got your field, you've got the ability to enter. You've also got a red star to be mandatory. Now, the important thing to realize with the red stars here is that these red stars refer just to the process bar. So you've got your red stars here for mandatory fields down in the main opportunity. You know that you can't save an opportunity until you've completed those red stars. With the business process flow, you're basically saying that you can't move in the business process flow onto the next stage until you've filled those fields in. It doesn't have to be a mandatory field in the main process, in the main form. It's just in the process bar, and that's quite a big advantage for people. It's encouraging them to enter the field at the right time, but not limiting the ability to set up that opportunity right at the get-go. So here, for example, we've got an option. It's asking us to complete. When we've completed that, we've presented the proposal, then we can tick yes, and a little tick mark comes up to show that you've completed that field. Now, if I was to try and move on to the next stage at this point, the system actually tells me that I've got a mandatory field still to fill in. And what this is saying is that there's a mandatory field here. Now, this can be a little confusing because this looks as if this is completed. There's an option in here. But the process bar is assuming on a yes-no option that if you put it as a mandatory field, you're saying that yes is how you start, but to move on, you need the user to make sure that they're clicking it onto the alternative. So in this case, to be able to move on to this basis, I would need to click, and there's my little tick. Once I've completed all that information, then I'm in the position that I can move forward onto my next stage. So that gives a lot of help to the users to understand what information is important at what point in time for them to be able to show this. Now, another advantage that has come in with D365 is the ability to actually run two business flows in tandem. So what that means is that I have a business flow set up here, and perhaps I want my sales team or my proposal sales team to follow this business flow. But perhaps I have another one that I want some other group of people to be able to follow on the same record as well. In that case, I can actually toggle between my two areas in terms of which business process flow anyone needs to operate. So I'm going to drop the arrow up here in the option set here, and you'll see that I have the ability to edit the process and to switch the process, even to abandon a process that I perhaps was using and isn't applicable for me. Now bear in mind that all of this kind of option is governable by security. So it may be that you don't have the ability to edit a process. As a user on the front end, you may just have the ability to work through it rather than edit it. So I'm going to click this button, and what the system will now do is show me the processes that are available to me. Now you can see this is, as I said, a demo system, so we may not have particularly meaningful ones here. But I'm going to click on this one, and this is the opportunity sales process, and select. And you'll see that now my system actually changes round and gives me a different business process flow. It's the same opportunity. My opportunity is setting up a business process flow, but I have a different one to look at here. Now this business process flow is more geared to the process of moving through an opportunity. Now in that situation, we're going from opportunity to quote to order, and my business process bar can actually reflect that as well. So I'm now on the qualify stage here. I've filled in my mandatory fields. I've got my account identified. I've got the other fields I haven't yet filled in. For the sake of expediency, I will bypass those this time. And I'm going to click then that I want to go on to the next stage. Now on this one, the system's actually indicating to me that I'm going to have to do something before I can move because I'm going into a different area. So I'm going to click that I've got my quote, and I'm going to select my quote. And the system then should move me on to the next stage. Now moving on to the next stage, you see I've actually not only moved a stage in the process bar, I've actually moved a stage into the quote entity as well. Because this process bar knows that I have to go through the process of an opportunity to a quote, that actually even takes me through to the contract one as well. So the ability for me to maneuver across entities is available through the business process flow. Now this is not new to 365. You were able to do that before, but it gives you the option of the added functionality at the same time, plus being able to use alternative business process flows. So I'm just going to go back to my original process flow because the demonstration that I want to do, I'm going to focus on that one. And at this point, I try and switch back to my process flow, and it doesn't give me any of the options. Now, the reason it doesn't give me any of the options on this is because I'm still in my quote. So it's only showing the process flows that are applicable for the entity that I'm actually in. So on that basis, I'm going to click on my qualify. And I'm actually going to set that as my active one so that the system now knows that I'm in this ability. And then when I go into my process and I switch my process now, then I can see the ones that I'm needing to do this, and I can go back into my process flow for here. So I'm back to my initial one. I've got my 3 stages, and then I can proceed as I wish to. And on this one, I'm actually in the 2nd stage. I'm going to go back to my qualify one just so that I can make sure that I'm in the right place for my demonstration for you. So that's how the process flow looks to the user. But obviously, you're in a position that you may want to actually physically set one up as well. So what we're going to look at now is the ability of how you would physically set up a process flow. And I have one here that can help to see the layout of where we are. Now this reflects the process flow that we've just looked at from the operational perspective. This is the process flow from the development perspective. Now, as I'm sure one or two of you may have noticed, this isn't exactly the same one. This one is called layout for opportunity process flow. What I've done is just done this so that I can demo a couple of things. The end result is the same of what we're looking at. Now, you'll see here, for those of you who've done process flows before, this is where it is very much different. It has more of a look and feel of a drag and drop, the sort of kind of Visio idea where you can take your components that you want to put in, and you basically can add those as a drop and flow level. Now, The other thing is that at this point, this one is active, but when you would first start it, it would be a deactivated one. And you can activate and deactivate your process flows as you go. If it's active, it can be seen by other people. If it's inactive, it cannot be seen by other people. So when you're setting it up, developing it, trying to get it to be exactly what you want it to be, then you really need to have it in an inactive phase. And you'll see that in an inactive ability, you have the ability to save your record as you go. So what we have here is basically a three-stage process flow. Each stage allows you to enter fields. So if I drop this details list, you'll see that I have fields identified as steps, and each of my fields here has the name details on it. And then I can look at the property information. So this information that I'm looking at is now displayed on the right-hand side, and you'll see that there's basically two tab marks here that allows you to show the actual components. So this is the stages or conditions, the steps, and the workflows, which we'll just go through in a moment. And then the properties, which show the details of what you're looking at. So let's look at this first one, which is a stage. And you'll see that as I create the stage, it allows me to put the information in that's relevant for it. So let's just add another stage at the end here, just in terms of being able to see what we need to do. So I'm going to click on stage, and I'm just going to drag this somewhere on the screen just so that you can see what happens. As I drag it across, you'll see that little plus signs come up. The little plus signs are where I can now put the thing that I'm dragging. So I have my mouse still on this stage. I'm in an ability that I still drag it around with my mouse. And you can see as I put it over the plus sign, it hits the area that I can put it into. So let's just put it into here just for the minute. And you'll see that I've now got another stage that's come in. You'll see on my stage that you've got a little symbol on the left-hand side. That tells me how many steps, i.e. how many fields I have on the system here. And you'll see on the left-hand one here for the initial stage I have 3. On the right-hand one I have 4. And at the moment I only have 1 here. And that's because I haven't added any fields yet. It starts with the default field, but I don't have any more. This one shows me how many workflows I have, and we'll cover that in a moment. And this one shows me the details of the steps if I open it out. At the top here is my information about the stage itself. So this is where I can name it. And excuse me if you can just hear me typing on here. I have a keyboard that's a little bit noisy. And so I can have my test stage on here. And then I have the category that I'm going to link it to. Now this shows me a list that's defined in Dynamics as an option set as to the type of categories that I'm looking at. And this will reflect and link back to my process flow that can link back to my dashboards to show me which area of operation I'm in. And you can define that yourself. You can even add to this category list through the option sets. So I'm just going to show that this is a qualifier. You can have more than one on the same stage. It's in the qualified stage. And this allows me to link to the opportunity. I'm going to keep it at the opportunity entity, but I could link to other ones if I wanted to move around the entities, as we saw earlier. The relationship shows me relationship with other areas. I don't have any at the moment, so I'm just going to leave that. Now, the important thing to remember here is that anytime you make any change in this window, you have to apply it. Because if you don't hit the apply, you'll find that it doesn't actually accept those changes, and you can do all this work and then not apply and find that you lose it all. If you want to basically undo what you've done, you can discard, and that would set everything back to what it was before. I'm not going to do that at the moment because I'm going to continue. So what's the next stage of things that I need to add? Let's look at adding a step. So I have a step here. This is, they set one step up. For you to be able to continue and to save this and to activate it as a workflow, you must have a step, that's a field added to every stage. So I'm going to click on this step now to show that for step number 1, I want to add the details for what this step is. And you'll see on the right-hand side that this has taken me to the properties. Now, when I click on this, it gives me a display name, a data field, whether it's required, and the sequence of the steps that it's put it in. If I choose a field, I've got two options here. I can type a name of the field, but if I choose a field name, so let's say we chose budget, the system will automatically assume that what you want to put in as the display name is the name of the field itself. So you can choose the budget, and then the budget will show. But you could put anything on here that you wanted to be able to see. So on this basis, what I'm going to look at here is I'm going to do my information on here and show that this is the budget today, let's just say, just to show that we can do something different. Required, that's what adds that little red star. So remember, it doesn't have to be required in the actual form. It can just be required here, and then my magic button here to apply, and you'll see that it applies it onto here. Now, what if I wanted to add a second step? Then I can go back to my components entity here, and I can click and drag the step. So again, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Here's my step. It's moving around with my icon, and you'll see that now I've got two little plus signs here and here, one above the existing step and one below the existing step. So that gives me the ability to position my field where I want it to be, and in this case I want it to be underneath. Now, I'm not going to add many more fields here. I'm just going to add another one so that we just have something showing on this basis, and I'm going to leave that now as two steps. Now I could say, okay, I've added that second step and I realize I put them in the wrong order. This contact should come before the budget today. There is an option here to move up and move down. I can just click my little button and that will change the order of my steps. So basically, now what I've got is a stage that is complete with the opportunity category and the steps that I need from that category, and it shows it in the correct place. Now, the next thing that I want to demonstrate on here that you can do is the condition of adding in this condition, and this is the ability for you to put your either or in. Where you used to put a condition that says, if something equals this, do this, if something equals that, do the alternative. And what the system assumes on here is that you can, again, drag and drop this condition, and you're going to say, if I want to do something, I follow one path of the business process flow. If I have a different condition, I put another. So, same thing, I'm going to drag the condition over, I put it in the space here, where the little plus sign is, and you can see that it's put my condition in, it's put it in a different color so that I can identify easily that this is something different. And now you'll see that I've got a tick box that says, if the condition is met, go this route, and I've got a cross box that's telling me, well, what do I need to do if the alternative is there? And I can add the second condition box into there to move forward. So if I click on my condition field here, you'll see that basically I've got the same idea with my properties. I've got a display name, so what's my condition? So I can put in something like, let's say, which currency, because I want to put in here a condition on the currency. And then it gives me my rules. And it also writes down the condition expression at the bottom in terms of what I need to do. So I'm going to start my condition. And the first thing to realize with the condition is that you can only use the fields of a condition following the stage where the condition is sitting. So in this case, my stage here has three fields. It has account name, estimated close date, and currency. So this means I can only use these three fields in my condition because my condition has to apply to something to do with the category in the stage in the business process flow. So I'm going to do my currency, and I'm going to say here, if my currency equals, and I've got two options. I can make a value or a field. Now, in this case, I don't have a field that's appropriate, so I'm going to use a value. I'm going to click my search button. And the values that it's giving me are the two values that are in the database. So I'm going to add my Canadian dollar here. So this is saying if the currency equals Canadian dollar, follow this path. Again, I'm going to hit my apply, and you can see that it populates here. Now, for every either, there has to be an or as well. So I can create a condition that basically does the reverse. Now, rather than going all through that as we go again, I'm going to bring over the one that I've already got prepared that does the same thing. And this is in effect the one that is actually the one that we're using on the business process flow demonstration. So let me just magnify this out so that everyone can see it a little bit clearer. And you'll see here that I've got my conditions preset and laid out on the system. Now, so you can see from this that the layout is such that I have the condition of if in this case if it's US dollar, follow this, and if it's Canadian dollar, follow this. So I added the second condition and put the details in. Now, you can also see on this one that this is really not great to work with in the sense that it doesn't fit on the screen, and I'm scrolling along, and I can't necessarily see how much more I have here and what the layout is. And this is where this new little feature here comes in handy. So basically, this is a mini map that shows you where you are on your business process flow. Now, with this one, it's not too big a deal. I've only got 3 stages. I've now got one underneath. I've got a couple of conditions. I can probably handle that scrolling back and forth. But if I had a process bar that had 7 or 8 or even more conditions and or stages, then that's going to get a little bit more confusing as to where I am and how I'm looking at it. If I click on this darker area, the darker area shows what is physically on my screen at the moment. If I search on this and scroll on this, rather hold it with my cursor, move up and down, it will move up and down the screen for me. So that's just a little help to move you along the screen. If you find that really it's just in the way and you don't want it, you can close it, or at least you can minimize it. Put it down here. If you bring it back up again, then your system is on there as well. So, other little things that might help you while you're moving this. I appreciate we've still got to do workflow, but just to allow you to see little things that are helping to develop as you go. The toolbar here will enable you to move around the screen and operate a little bit more easily as well. Some people prefer doing things in different ways. This is a drag and drop. You can move things over. Some people prefer to use an add function. So if you click here, you'll see, click on the add, and then you can see if I click on one of the areas, so let's click on stage, then you'll see as I click on stage, all my little plus buttons show, which indicates that if I just click on one of those plus buttons, that's where my stage comes up. Now, as I say, the choice is entirely up to you. There's no right or wrong way. If you prefer to click add and click here, that's fine. If you prefer to go to components and drag across, that's also absolutely fine. Copy and paste feature is here as well. So let's say that we had this stage here, and we wanted to copy it and also put it in here as well. So I'm going to click on this stage, and I'm going to copy. And then I'm going to hit my paste button, and you'll see that once again I get all my little plus signs, and I can indicate exactly where I want to hit my plus. So on this one, I want to hit my plus here, and it then puts a copy of it here. Moving along the bar, we have the delete function. And now I've copied and pasted and added ones to show you. I really don't want to keep those added in. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to delete it. And then I don't have to worry about that one anymore. So I'm going to do the same with this one, because this was just a demo, and I'm going to delete this too. Are you sure you want to delete it? And now I'm back to what I had originally. Now, the other thing is maybe you want to share this with somebody, or maybe you just want to look at it off-site, in effect, from CRM. You can take a snapshot of this screen to show the layout. Maybe you want to put it up on a whiteboard and go through it with people. If you click on a snapshot, it will basically just take a picture of your whole screen. And I hope you can see at the bottom here, there's the pop-up menu from IE saying, do I want to save the demo? Do I want to open it? If I save it, I can still open that, and there's my picture. Sorry, it's gone on my other screen. Here's that picture that I can now work with to maybe show to people, send it to someone for review, whatever the process is for here. So I'm going to close out of there for now. Now the connector is also quite useful in terms of connecting areas from A to B of where you are and you want to change it. So if I click on something like one here that's got a connector, under my connector I could perhaps disconnect that if I needed to. Or if I've got one that I can connect to something on here, I can only disconnect, there's nothing I can connect it to. Sometimes, you know, it will allow you to connect or disconnect or reconnect something that you've added. Usually when you add this in, it will do that connection for you, but if you want to fine-tune your connections, then you're in a process that you can do that. So we've still got our business process flow here. We've got the information that's going through. And now I'm in a position where I can also use the final last feature on here, which is the workflow. This is the, as I say, the last added feature in terms of being able to add your components. So the workflow basically allows you to put a workflow within your business process flow so that it is activated for operation as you either enter or exit the stage. Couple of points that you need to understand on this. If you put the details on here, this is where you're dragging your workflow down to. So I'm going to add a workflow to my second stage, which is develop. So I'm going to say on here, if the condition on this is, let's say if it's Canadian dollars, I'm going to have it so that it will activate a workflow. So let's click my details down here. I'm going to, you can see, scroll down here. And I'm going to drag my workflow over and place it into my workflow. And you see the little blue came up to show that I'm over that plus sign. And now I've got my workflow. And here's my properties to fill in on the workflow basis as well. So what I'm going to do now then is to look at entering which workflow I want to put in. Now when you're doing a workflow on a business process flow, you can only add a workflow that's on demand. So you need to be able to, on your workflow, click that little button that says it's an on-demand one so that you can choose that. The other thing is it can only be a workflow that relates to the entity for the business process flow. So in this case, our entity is opportunity. We can only do a business process flow that has an entity of opportunity. So here's my entity of opportunity. It's telling me that. And here's my trigger. So when do I want the workflow to kick in? Do I want it to kick in as I enter the stage or as I exit the stage? So in this case, I'm going to do as I enter the stage. And then I have the ability of saying, okay, which workflow do I want to use? And I have a workflow that says assign the owner to Angelina. Those of you who have been on before know that Angelina is one of the other consultants. So in this case, I'm going to say if ever the condition of the business process flow is set that the currency is Canadian, when I go into the process stage, I want my workflow to kick in and assign it to her as the owner. So I'm going to add that in, and it's just adding it in there. I think it's just thinking a little bit there. Sorry, it was, yeah, I've got it there. And again, remember, must hit the apply button to make sure it's here, and then you can see that all my information is here from there. So I've made my change to my workflow. I'm now in a position that I can save this and make it actually operational. So my workflow is active. I hadn't needed to deactivate it to actually physically do a change. But in order to save, I have to update this workflow. So I'm going to click my update button here. And basically that is telling me that I'm saving the record. Now, a couple of the extra kind of admin things on the business process flow as you're setting it up. Two things show in the ribbon bar at the top here that may be of interest. One is the order of the business process flow. So if you have a choice of business process flows and you want to encourage people to choose one, and people always choose the one that's nearest to the top of what they're looking at. If you click on the order process flow, it will give you the list of all the process flows that are available and allow you to sort the order in which you actually see them, providing you have the security to see them, of course. So I'm going to leave that as is. And then the other thing, and this is also another change that has come in with 365, and that is how to apply security to a business process flow. Now, to be able to explain the security, I have to just say that the business process flow is now set up in Dynamics as its own physical entity. Now, I wouldn't worry too much about this at this stage. Just suffice it to say that because it's an entity now, you can do all the things to it that you do with any other entity, and that includes applying security. So I'm going to look at this and say which security roles need to see this business process flow. So here are all my security roles, and I'm going to choose the customer service representative. So I'm going to say the customer service reps need to be able to see this business process flow. So I need to apply this business process flow to those people using this, and therefore the people who have this security role applied to them. Now the security role, you'll see the same kind of idea of the tabs, but here is this brand new tab, business process flows. I'm going to click on my business process flows, and you'll see that the default is all the ones that the system gives you. And you'll see here that basically these have all been predefined. And here are my new ones. And so far, this role does not have access to them. So I'm going to give create. Actually, I'm only going to give read on here, and the appends. I'm not going to give write because I don't want the reps to be able to change it, and I don't want them to be able to delete it. And now I'm going to save and close. So that means now that anyone that has the security role, customer service representative, they are able to access that business process flow. Now, of course, as an administrator, you automatically have access to everything. So it's as well to remember that because you've set up the process flow, you have access because you are an administrator. Everybody else has to be set up by you before they can physically see it. So in this case then, I have finished doing my process flow, added in my workflow. So let's just go back to the original document. Now we can see what happens on this. So let me just refresh the screen on this. So I'm just going to open this again. And hopefully the system copes all right with the go-to. And I'm just going to, this is just to refresh the screen. You could have hit F5 and refresh the screen on that basis as well. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move to the next stage. So basically, this will then kick in the workflow. So you can see that at the moment, I'm the owner. I'm going to kick on to my, moving on to the next stage. Sorry, I think this was just saving as it went here. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner. And we've moved on to the next stage, and you can see that Angelina is now the owner of this record. So not only did I move my business process flow, but the workflow that I had put in action that said, if, and let's go back to qualified to see, if the currency is Canadian dollars, when I move into this process flow, make Angelina the owner. And that basically is making sure that the workflow has kicked in into the business process flow and go from there. Okay, so that's the business process flow in there. And the last thing I just wanted to show you was how to see these stages if you want to in a view. So just for the sake of this, I'm just going to open an advanced find here. And I'm going to go to opportunities. I'm just going to create a new one here. So I'm going to edit, sorry, hit the wrong button there. I'm going to edit my columns. Now this is a standard new opportunity, so let's just click the column of topics so that we make sure that we see there, and I'm going to add my columns. And the bit I wanted to show you here is the relevant area to look at then is the process stage. So the process stage is its own entity. So what this does is populate from the business process flow, and you'll see that if you link to that entity, you basically have 3 pieces of information here. You have the primary entity, the stage name, and the category. So I'm going to just enter them all here, and then I'm going to OK, and then I'm just going to run this so that you can see the results. Now, please bear in mind that this is a test system, so all of this stuff will show different information. But you can see here is my opportunity that I setting up a business process flow. You can see that it tells me it's on an opportunity. You can see that it says it's on the second stage, which is propose, which is here. And you can see that it's on the stage category of propose, which, if I just show you this again, was, oh, sorry, wrong one. If I just show you the other one, for this one, you can see that the second stage for here was the proposed category here. So that's basically showing you how you could run a list of, if you want to see what stage you're at with anything, how you could basically run a list from there. Okay, so that is what I would like to cover today in terms of the information on here. I would just like to take a couple of minutes to